Hello everybody, this is Albert with Green Tea House. I hope you're doing well today. Today we're going to talk about the different styles of steeping in terms of weight and duration between the East and the West and how you can use this to your advantage. Now before we begin, I highly recommend you check out our back catalog of episodes, and particularly the episodes that have to do with the teas that we sell here at Green Tea House, and I'll make sure I put some germane banners up here. So the East and the West, they view steeping time and amount differently. And this is a follow-up to an episode I did before, if you're watching these chronologically. If not, I'll make sure I put a banner up here for it. How the idea of using a teaspoon to scoop out our tea is not a good way to assess the amount of tea you should use, because every tea in tisane or an herbal have a different weight and a different consistency. And so we showed in that video how, like licorice, if you look at it by teaspoon, a licorice, you're going to get this amount of it, but if you're going to do an oolong or something, it's going to be the same amount if you use a teaspoon. But if you do it by weight and you measure out, let's say 2 grams by weight on a scale, then the licorice, you're actually getting this much and you're still getting a small amount. So using a teaspoon is not a good indicator. So how should you do it? Well, the East and the West vary on their standards on how much tea you should use. Now, so we're going to kind of give a rule of thumb on this, but whatever I'm going to tell you is going to be based on a weight. So as a whole, it's not surprising, the Asian side, the Eastern side, especially the Chinese, and we talked about in that episode about how long should you steep your tea and what temperature is the ideal temperature. The Chinese don't really like have it down to like a thermometer and all these things like that. They're just like you trial and error. Your tea's gonna have a different taste depending on what temperature you're doing it, and just chill, for lack of a better word, just chill. Whereas the West, and of course a lot of our tea history from the West comes from the British. We have that episode of 4,500 years of tea history in 10 minutes. And so on the West, it's a lot more, I would say, maybe scrupulous, anal retentive, and it's got to be this or this temperature, this amount of time, and so forth. So I'll give you both, and I'll give you my take as to which is better. So the West tends to do smaller amounts, longer steepage time. So in the West, you're going to see like 1 to 3 grams in terms of your tea, and then they'll steep for about 3 to 5 minutes. Now here, as a whole, we definitely recommend you re-steep your tea leaves because it's more bang for your buck, and there's still a lot of potency in your leaves even after you steep it one time, and it's a great disservice to throw away a good loose leaf tea after one steepage when you can probably do it at least 3 times. And remember, in that window when you're re-steeping, it should be within, let's say, 6 hours, because wet tea leaves can eventually get bad. So when we talk about re-steeping, we're not saying, steep Monday at 6 a.m. and then steep it again Tuesday at 6 a.m. It's got to be within, I would say, the 6-hour window. So in the West, it's going to be a longer steepage and smaller amounts. In the East, it's going to be larger amounts, so maybe 3 to 5 grams for an individual serving, but they'll do it shorter. They're going to do it for maybe a minute to 2 minutes. And so you notice, like in the Asian way, it's going to be a stronger tea because you're using more of tea, right? And since it's a shorter duration, you're also going to see multiple re-steepages. And we talk about here, just as a kind of a rule of thumb, 3 minutes is a good steepage time. Again, this can vary based on your taste as to what temperature you want to steep your tea and how long you want to do it. But as a whole, we just said good rule of thumb. If you look on the back of the packages, it's like 3 minutes. But there's some teas, like right now I'm drinking my sencha, the sencha that we sell here. In Japan, they tend to do pretty short steepages when it comes to the Gyokuro, which is a high-end sencha. And with sencha, they might do a minute. They might do 30 seconds on a steepage or 45 seconds, and then they re-steep it 5-6 times. So I would tell you, what is the better one of these? Smaller tea leaves with a longer steepage or more tea leaves with a shorter steepage? I would tell you, if money's not an object, you should definitely go with more tea leaves, because with more tea leaves, you're getting more of the taste that you like, whether it be an oolong or a black or a pu'er. So certainly you should use more tea leaves. Now, when it comes to quantity, and again, I would do it by weight, not by the teaspoon. In terms of steepage duration, the longer you steep the tea, the more robust the taste is going to be. So if money is not an object, I would tell you a lot of tea leaves coupled with a long steepage. And the longer the steepage you're doing, I'll put a banner up here about the nuances of steeping. If you're steeping tea for 7 minutes, you're not going to be re-steeping that 3 times because pretty much all the potency of those tea leaves have been sapped out after 7 minutes. So again, if money is no object, the ideal is going to be use a lot of the tea, a long steepage, let's say 5 minutes, drink that high potent tea, throw out the tea leaves, put them in compost, and then the next time you're going to drink, again, same thing, a lot of tea leaves, longer steepage. But I wanted to give you an idea how the East and the West do it differently, ultimately based on what you're comfortable with, the taste profile you want for a particular tea, and the issue with money and how much money you have. Then you determine what's best for you. Guys, post in the comments. I would love to hear from you. Until next time, take care and God bless.